First of all, before I say good evening to everybody, can I first of all introduce Mr. Michael Clark and Mr. Peter Lorenzo, who are both independent members on the Standards Committee. I think it's the first time both of you have been to one of these CRWP meetings. So, and you'll get to know as we go along the routine, don't worry. So welcome to both of you. Right, good evening members and officers of the Council and members of the public. Welcome to the meeting of the Constitutional Review Working Party. Fire evacuation procedure. If the fire alarm is activated, please vacate the offices via the stairs, either through the security doors or opposite the lifts in the foyer. Do not use the lifts. Please assemble in Hawley Square on the green and officers will assist you and advise you when it's deemed safe to return to the chamber. Does anyone intend to film the meeting? Good. Any member of the public? No, leave all that out. Will everybody present please ensure their mobile phones are turned to silent and they are not used to make or receive phone calls in the chamber while the meeting is in progress. Please note this meeting is being live streamed for members of the public, except for any items of business where exempt or confidential information is considered following the exclusion of the press and public from the meeting. This meeting is also being recorded and will be broadcast on the internet. Would any member who wish to speak under Council Procedural 20.1 please announce it? Are there any apologies or absence? No?
No, Chair.
Are there any declarations of interest? Right. Minutes of the meeting from the 23rd of February 2022. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 23rd of February 2022 can be approved and signed as a correct record. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Unless anyone objects, I will take them as agreed. Thank you. Just sign them off. Item 4, agenda item 4, revised members of the Code of Conduct. I'll ask Mr. Hughes, the Committee Services Manager, to present the report.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just going to introduce the report. I don't propose to go through all the changes, but there are one or two that I wanted to pick out and to get members' opinions on. So the Local Government Association have, in the past 6 months, released a new model code of conduct. We, as a council, have a current code of conduct that is created by the Kent Secretaries Group. So that is a group of all the monitoring officers across Kent. And they have created a code that is used ostensibly across Kent. There are sort of minor differences between all of them, but on the whole it's pretty much the same in order to ensure that we have a level playing field for members' conduct across Kent. Due to obviously the Local Government Association publishing a new model code, the Kent Secretaries took the opportunity to review the current one and update it and make some changes. Those changes are then outlined within the report at paragraph 2 and also in the annex at the end of the document. As it has been pointed out, I do apologise that the columns are not in the same order in this report as they are in the second report, just to keep you all on your toes. Yeah. As you can see from the changes, most of them are removing repetition and removing ambiguity. The ones that I would particularly draw your attention to is the limit on gifts and hospitality. Currently, the TDC Constitution says that members should declare within 28 days any gift, benefit or hospitality over £25. The Kent Code, as is proposed, is £100, and obviously that's based on the LGA Model Code of Conduct. So members may wish to consider whether or not they wish to disregard that change and keep the level for Thanet at £25 or some other amount. And I would also draw your attention to the fact that a couple of, I think it was last year, we included a specific definition of anti-Semitism into our members' code of conduct, and by default that's not included in the LGA model code of conduct. So again here, members may wish to retain that definition in our new amended code. Okay. If members have any questions about any of the other points, then obviously please feel free to ask any questions. Thank you.
Me, I'm afraid. Just a quick, because when it came to page 11, it's taking part in discussions, that amended code of conduct, that sentence, it was tortuous. I still don't quite understand it. Can someone explain it to me? Take any step in relation to a matter being dealt with by you acting alone in the course of discharging a function of the authority, except a step for the purpose of enabling the matter to be dealt with otherwise than by you. Didn't understand that very much. Sorry.
Which one are you referring to, sorry?
Yeah.
It's about where certain members are taking individual decisions. So with regards to like individual cabinet member decisions, the way, theoretically you could take an individual cabinet member decision rather than taking it to a meeting where there would have been a vote where you would have had to have declared an interest. Is that yeah?
The phrasing could be.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it's not massively.
Being dealt with by you could be you are dealing with, for example, things like that, which
Yeah.
are a lot easier to understand.
Not wishing to. This was written by many solicitors with many solicitors. But no, I think that's a fair point. We can certainly look to amend it to retain the
Same content, but.
yeah, but with a slightly easier wording. Yeah.
Just to add, it wasn't me who amended that.
Can I just ask, has anybody got any comments on the hospitality gift value? Councillor Ashby.
I have, Chair, actually. I was discussing this earlier for some reason, well, in anticipation. Obviously, there's different levels of that councillors might be expected to attend. Obviously, as leader, I go to various things, and I think the 25, I just asked basically what year was the £25 set, because if it was a long while ago, I mean, I'm not trying to go around and truffle up a lot of £100 as leader of the council, but I do feel that 25 is quite low for the leader and for the cabinet, which might have to. I mean, we have to fund our own travel within district, but you do get invited to a huge amount of different events, and I could find myself in an embarrassing position where I often get asked to go and speak at, say, Rotary or some sort of, where they provide me sustenance because, you've been at. So it's it would be. I mean, it was not embarrassing, but if they invite me, then they automatically invite me for the dinner. So then I'd have to inquire as to whether the dinner costs more than £25, and I just think that maybe in some levels, so maybe £100 would make more sense, and then that would be a sort of catch-all. Yeah. So I mean, presumably 25 was set. I don't know if you know when it was set, but that would be a question. So that's my thoughts on that. I mean, that's just sort of personal experience, I suppose. Yes, I think I would certainly endorse it, but not for my own benefit, but just to keep down maybe some of the administration that's been asked to say. The other thing I would like to say is that absolutely, I love the way this is set out, because, rather than having to go through and work out amendments, I mean, to do it like this is just so much easier for members of the committee. I mean, not that I don't love trawling through the Constitution and working out the differences on it, but this is compliments to the setting out of this, and thank you for the officers involved. The other point, I mean, it's another point on another matter, so if I do them all at one go. Am I right in thinking that this code of conduct applies to every single councillor across? So, i.e., parish council, town council, district council, county councillor, and also is the what's the right word? Got to be careful here. The sanctioning of these the conduct, would they be dealt with in the same manner as? I mean, for instance, do standards have to deal with TDC Standards Committee deal with parish council and town, and just a bit of clarity on that, because I'm not entirely sure whether I think some maybe parish councils. I might be referring to Jackie, whatever her name was, the behaviour there. But, you know, it's just, I don't think maybe parish and town councils maybe feel that they actually come under the same stringent control that we do, but I think they probably do. It's just, it's not understood that fully. So just some clarity on that. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so going to the first point about the setting of the value, if memory serves me correct, it was 2012 when the last code of conduct was put in. And even then, I can remember from members who are now no longer with us, that there was a massive argument then about it being, it was reduced from, I can't remember what it was, I think it was 50, but it was certainly dropped down for Thanet to 25 from whatever the level was back in 2012. So, yeah, it stayed at 25 for at least 10 years. So that's the first point. The Code of Conduct and who it applies to, yes, the Kent Code applies to all of the democratic bodies, so all 3 tiers within Kent. Obviously, they will have slightly amended, slightly different versions of the Kent Code, but essentially it's all based on the same document. For example, like our standards arrangements have an independent member or independent members in it. Not everybody else's does. Some councils have a standards and governance committee joined together. So there's small tweaks like that, but essentially, yes, the same principle applies across for all 3 tiers. Yes, in Thanet, all of the parish councils have agreed to sign up to this particular code. So in Thanet, they all have exactly the same. There is a subtly different one. The version that they have is subtly different from ours because obviously it refers to blank insert name here, but the content is the same. I mean, typos and small details like that are different, but yes, essentially it's exactly the same. Is that helpful?
I think you'll also find, Councillor Ashby, it's written in the papers further in as we go, if there is a discipline hearing involving a member of the town or parish council, then the Standards Committee or the monitoring officer would actually notify the secretary of the relevant council in relation to the judgments and the progress. I did mention in my annual report that I was hoping that myself and monitoring officer or somebody could go around to all the councils to reiterate our existence, because I have concerns like you do, I think, that they don't realise that we're here. And obviously with change of personnel within the offices, that's been a little bit difficult. I was happy to do it on my own, but I was fortunate, I was advised, no, take somebody from Democratic Services with you, obviously to explain what's what. So that was the idea behind it, but of course with change of personnel, it's not come to fruition as yet. Yes, Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. I believe, well, I know that some of the parish councils are aware of our existence and the controls that we have and the complaints procedure, because that's happened, that I know of. So I know that does happen, but I do think that what you're suggesting is a very good idea, and I think most parish councils would be very grateful for the fact that you would go round to one of the parish meetings or the town meetings and explain the rules with regards to the disciplinary actions that can be taken against them, because I think you're quite right. Some are very lax in their attitudes towards gender and everything else, and I think that is quite right that we actually put it right now, and that, you know, they can be hauled up for it, and I think that is an issue. And I think most of them, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be acceptable for that. But as you say, maybe Samira ought to go with you as well, or somebody else of equal standing.
Thank you for that, and I think it is something that, now you've raised it, we need to discuss it. I know on the Standards Committee we do have representatives from the villages and parishes, and I believe, Mr Hughes will correct me if I'm wrong, there is a member of Ramsgate Town Council on the Standards? I think, I'm not too sure. Do you know, Councillor Ashby? No, I'm trying to think if it is.
Sorry, apologies. No, there are parish members.
Yes.
They're not from Ramsgate Town Council. There might be twin hatters. The parish one is Derek Crow-Brown and the other chap from Manston who's Quittenden, Mr. Quittenden. Yes, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, but Ramsgate's town clerk.
Yeah, I'm aware of that from. I'm aware of that as well from recent activity that, yes, we have touched base with the new clerk of the Ramsgate Council. I only wanted to raise the issue of the financial issue because it's something that I think should be mentioned, just so that we all talk from the same level playing field and there's no disputes later, if you like. Yeah, that's why I just thought, just make sure everybody's...
I think if that limit applies to parish councils, town councils as well, then making them aware of that as part of the overall code would be really, really helpful. May I just say on one other issue on the anti-Semitism clause? Because I think we're talking about sort of helping raise standards around things like gender and representation and so on as well. I wondered why that wasn't in the LGA recommended advice. I think it should be in, but I don't know whether Mr Hughes can say whether there's any particular reason why the LGA are not recommending, or just it's probably not something that they've thought to cover. I don't know.
I'm not in a position to answer that, I'm afraid. I wouldn't know why they wouldn't include it. I do know that not all councils have a definition of anti-Semitism in it. But as I say, I mean, we put our, well, this is the, our definition is the official definition, as per the appropriate authorities. I can't remember off the top of my head what the proper authority is, but it was written by them, and we've put it into our code of conduct. We're quite happy to include it. I think it's, as you said, it's an important thing to include, definitely.
I just wanted to say, to second that, I think it's very important that we have it in, and for clarity that we have that definition as distinct from the IHRA one that's all about the state of Israel and that has caused such confusion. I think if we've got something that's simple and straightforward that people understand, we should have it in. Why not?
Yeah, I read that and I thought, well, why just anti-Semitism? You could include other things as well. Because I thought, well, what about defining under the Equality Act 2010 and the public sector duty stuff, because that covers everything. And I thought, and I'm just going to say this, that was put in for political expediency at the time. I agree with it, but it should cover more than just anti-Semitism.
I think we've got a general wide-stretching discrimination within the conduct. This was a specific thing that was raised by a member that was brought to full council, so we endorsed it. I think it's as well as, and it was specifically raised at full council, and we agreed that it was absolutely necessary. But there is an overarching, obviously, discrimination against any type of discrimination. It's just that a member bought this as a specific, and I don't know whether it was a result of some event that might have gone on within the district. So they wanted to actually, it's like a double stamp, if you like, So I think that's why it all came about. In fact, I was at the council when it was discussed, and it was obviously agreed. But I think that was what. So they didn't feel that the general discrimination code of conduct was wide enough to cover this particular, because there was a specific incident within the district. So I believe that's what it was. If that makes any sense to you.
In that case,
But my view still stands in that it's not just, I can understand why it was brought up, but it should cover all religious intolerance rather than just anti-Semitism. That's all I'm saying.
do members wish to make any recommendations to the Standards Committee? In that case, can I have a proposer for agenda item 4 and a seconder?
Sorry, check. So, are we saying that I think the views were that we should stick to £100 and to retain the, yeah. So just to make that clear for the purposes of the minutes. Yeah, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
That is why I raised it, just to make sure everybody...
Yeah, no, that's fine, cool. Just, I think it's just because it's the things we've just agreed aren't in the version. They're not in the version that I've put to you. That's why I wanted to make it clear that we want to put them back in. Oh yeah, no, yeah. Thank you, Chairman. This is an extension of the previous item. So, although, as we talked previously about the model code of conduct from the LGA, they didn't produce any complaint handling guidance. The complaint handling arrangements were designed by the Kent Secretaries Group, but obviously as the code of conduct changed, they took this as an opportunity. As I've already said, it was previously last looked at extensively in 2012 with the introduction of the Localism Act 2011. So they took an opportunity to look again at the complaint handling legislation. Complaint handling guidance that they've put together. So again, I won't go through all of them. Mainly it's about time limits, and they're extending them, and I would acknowledge that some of the extensions do look quite a long time. However, not that I'm here to justify other people's changes. However, having been involved in some of these, they are an incredibly time-consuming and extremely sensitive thing to manage, and the timescales within the original... Oh, that's not very helpful. My computer's just thrown me out. The original timescales are not really achievable, if we're being honest. Crikey. Sorry, bear with. No, this threw me out.
Initial one that bothered me, not that I can see that matters might take a very long time to deal with, but the idea that the initial notification might hold
Oh, hang on, bear with.
working days, that means
Bear
a
with.
long time to keep somebody hanging on.
If I can, I'll come back to that point, if that's all right. Again, there's only a few things that I would draw to members' attention. The first of all is the membership of hearings item on page 36. As I've said previously, a lot of other councils don't have independent members on their panels. So this is written with a view of having no independent members. As we do, I think it would be advisable for us to retain the existing procedure, whereby the one of the independent members has to be the chair of a hearings panel. I think that's probably worth definitely keeping. One of the other things is it's worth also noting that failure to comply with a sanction would actually be a breach of the code, because currently it isn't. So we can go through the whole process and say, you need to apologise. And the councillor at the moment can go, no. And there's nothing whatsoever that the panel can do about it. Whereas if in future we say, or the panel says, apologise, and they go, no, I'm not going to do it, that at least is another breach of the code. They would be in breach of that, which is quite a helpful inclusion.
So what would the outcome be?
You would go through the process again. So it would be essentially that, yeah, you would potentially come up with a different sanction. So you'd have that first complaint, which obviously was proven. We've asked you to apologise for it. Then you'd go through another process similar that says, right, okay, these people didn't apologise. And obviously you'd take that into account when it got to the end. So you would ask for a more significant sanction, I would imagine, at the end of that process if they were found guilty.
Which could be basically taking the member of the particular committee that they're actually at, or they could be asked to not to attend a particular area. So, for example, they were a portfolio holder, just an example. They'd be taken off that and not allowed to attend that committee for 3 to 6 months. That's one of the sanctions that can be applied.
Is there any way of making that slightly quicker to do? Because it feels like it is quite a long process, as we're saying, and then to go into it again and effectively rerun it. Is there any way of sort of shortening that at all, or bringing that forward more quickly?
I don't think you could. You'd have to go through the proper processes, and I'm afraid there isn't a shortcut to it. As much as we'd like it to be, it has to be done properly.
Unfortunately, a lot of our teeth, I think is the right expression, was taken away by Mr Pickles when he removed a lot of what the Standards Committee could impose if somebody was found guilty of breaching the Code of Conduct. So our powers are very, very limited. I think that's right, Mr Hughes, isn't it?
That is correct, yes. It was actually taken away. In fact, England is the only one that's taken away. It's still applicable in Wales and Scotland, so they still follow prosecution. But in England, we can't do any.
Sorry, just as one other thing, and thanks to Councillor Hart for pointing this out, at page 54, for Steve's benefit, we've got a gender-specific term in there, in the form, in the sample complaint form, so we're just going to remove that and change it to a gender-neutral one. Other than that, everything else is gender-neutral as per our constitution. So. Was there another? I did get another question, I think, from.
I'm happy to answer. I don't know why the Kent Secretary actually went down this route. I don't know. But very honestly, it doesn't take that long. And whenever I've done it, I've never gone for 20 days. Well, I won't go for 20 days. I can rest assure you. It's literally a standard email set it out. It's a 10 working days. So even though it's there, I can rest assure you that it won't take 20 days. I'm happy to. I mean, as long as members are I have no problem. 10 working days is fine, which is still 2 weeks, so it's fine.
That was the question I was going to ask. What are our powers now in relation to any recommendations we make? Can we, we've got the power to leave ours as they are without, i.e. the 10 working days being the classic example?
Absolutely. The council is only required to have a code of conduct. It just so happens that in Kent we all have the similar one. So any of these changes, if you don't like them or want to recommend something else, like we did with whether we wanted to include the anti-Semitism definition or whether we wanted it to be £25 or £100, you can change it. So if you want this to be 10 days, you can keep it at 10 days if you want to do. That's absolutely fine. Entirely up to.
I was involved with an incident where it actually fell over the Christmas period. So it actually was really, it did actually affect. So maybe a suggestion could be to just insert the word a maximum of 20 days. So then if the monitoring officer is of a mind to do it within a shorter period, then they can do. There was an instance when 10 days was breached because it fell over, the monitoring officer was away and they are the gatekeeper, so and they were away and it was a Christmas period and it breached it. So I appreciate that you can probably do it in 10 days in most circumstances, but maybe a catch-all is to have a maximum of 20, just insert the word maximum, and then obviously if the monitoring officer can get it done in 2 days, then you know, so be it. But it was just, there was an incident which I was actually involved in, so and it was a bit awkward.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine with me. I was going to suggest a working day anyway. If it's 10 working days, a minimum of 10 and no more than 20, something like that, then that way it, it'll be fine. Yeah. All I was going to say is that I have got a Kent Secretary meeting next week, so I will raise it with them with the amendments that we've suggested, just so they know that we actually have sort of some of the stuff that we've gone away from their recommendation. Just to put belt and braces, really, more than anything else.
Shimmy, can I just ask you, just for everybody's benefit, just to reiterate what the two amendments we are, look as if we're going to be recommending this evening? Obviously, the first one is straightforward, that add to a maximum of 20 working days.
No, I think it's no minimum of 10 working days and with a maximum of 20 days. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And in relation to the independent members on the hearing panels, we want ours to stay as it is.
If I may, Chair, I mean, I think that's really important that we maintain an independent chair.
Absolutely.
Because not that you should enter this committee with a political bias, but obviously having an independent chair would have avoided that. I also, I probably should know this, but it's not included in here, is the mechanism for, it may well be bedded somewhere in there, but the mechanism for selection of the subcommittee. I've never been clear on how that is actually selected, and I say it because I worry about political bias, so I just wondered how the selection happens. Just as a safeguard, because I would hate for that to creep in. I mean, we had an earlier conversation today about where it can maybe present grey areas, so I mean, it's not covered in this, but maybe it should be, and I can't find where we cover the selection for subcommittees for standards.
I'll let Mr. Hughes answer that.
So, as you originally said, Councillor, the idea is that it's an apolitical role. However, obviously, It's more what it's seen about from outside rather than what it's seen from inside. So, given the fact there aren't any official rules, when Democratic Services have to select members from the panel, we always ensure that there is one member, so it's a panel of 3, so you have your independent member, you have the independent chairman, and occasionally you have another independent member, and that will happen more so now. Previously it didn't happen because we didn't have enough independent members, but now we do. So you have 2 independent members, and then you'll have at least you'll have 1 councillor from their group and 1 councillor that's not of their group. Okay, and if the complaint is about a parish councillor, one of the people will always be a parish councillor on that to give a fair parish council viewpoint. Well, as there's only two parish council representatives, yeah. So if it is from that's why we always try and make sure that when the parish, I think is it Thanet Association of Local Councils, I think are the people who put the nominations in. We always try to ensure that they're not from the same parish council. So yeah, we would try not to have somebody from that parish council on the selection panel. However, obviously people are very busy, and whilst that is an aspiration, we can't guarantee, as from what we're talking about with regards to the deadlines and the pressing need to get on with stuff, we can't just delay forever the ability to set up an assessment subcommittee because the balance isn't quite right. So it might be the case that we always try and have somebody, we stick to those rules, we always try and do that. However, if people are on holiday or people are just not available, then occasionally we would go away from that, but that is absolutely the exception to the rule. I personally can't remember in my time, in the 10 years that I've been here, that happening more than a handful of times in 10 years. We always try and keep it not politically balanced, but fair. Fair. Yeah.
So I think we can move forward then. So are we looking to recommend option 3.1 on page 39? i.e. the amendments that we've just suggested? Yeah.
I have a question, I'm awfully sorry. Page 33 on confidentiality. I'm assuming the left hand is proposed and the right hand is current. Have you not transposed them?
Yes, that's what we were talking about.
Oh, were you? So it should be the other way round. Okay, fine.
One's the one around.
That's all I want to know. You'll change it then. Fine, thank you.
Whichever you feel, members. I think we could take it on block because I think there's only 2 as such, isn't there? Okay, are we happy to take it on block? Yeah. In that case? Yeah. So Councillor Austin's proposing, and seconder, please. Users got anything else to raise? No? Well, that's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.